All right, I honestly did not expect President Biden to pull this move, but it is a scathing indictment of what is to come over the next 4 years and what Biden himself expects to happen. This isn't some meaningless gesture like banning offshore drilling, which is cool, but Trump will just undo that within a week of taking office. This is an actual preventative safeguard to make sure Trump can't act on his worst urges and ruin the lives of people he deems as political enemies. People like Dr. Fauci, people like Liz Cheney, even the Capitol police officers who were defending the Capitol on January 6th just received a preemptive pardon, and we'll get into that. It's very important that we cover Biden's statement so that we're able to control the narrative on this. It's very important that I show you Trump's exact statements that led to this over the past year or two. So drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed. We're trying to get to 1 million subscribers this year. And let's just start off with this post. Donald Trump said on December 26th of 2023, this is his actual Truth Social account. He posted a word cloud where the biggest word is revenge. And then you see power. And then you see dictatorship. And then you see America. You see dictator, where my cursor is. You can even zoom in right here and see retribution. And even without this word cloud, even if this word cloud did not exist, do you know how many articles I can pull up like this? Trump suggests that Mark Milleys should be executed in possible breach of pretrial release conditions. He said that Mark Milleys, who led perhaps the most embarrassing moment in American history with the Afghanistan withdrawal, he then says, this will be a time for all citizens of the USA to celebrate. This guy turned out to be a woke train wreck. He was dealing with China, and then he ends it off. This is an act so egregious that in times gone by, the punishment would have been death. I don't even know, he's talking about a general that he himself worked closely with, a 4-star general, somebody who's dedicated their entire life to serving for this country. I mean, I think Mark Milleys has about 44 years of service, and he was the highest ranking military official in the country, and Trump is calling for his death without any due process. If there were days, which there were, where people like this would have been killed, there would be due process in the first place. Why don't we go over to this post right here, or this article. Trump says Liz Cheney, Mississippi congressman, should go to jail for the January 6th probe. And this isn't just some one-off statement. He has called for this stuff so many times. They did an analysis of The Guardian of Trump's post showing that he relentlessly focuses on punishing his enemies. And listen, none of this is to scare you guys. We're just talking about the reality of the next few years and why Biden just preemptively pardoned Dr. Fauci. He preemptively pardoned General Mark Milley, officers of the January 6th Congressional Committee, and he released a long statement explaining why he did it. We'll get to that. But a major study of Donald Trump's Truth Social post has revealed the scale of the former U.S. president's ambitions to target Joe Biden, judges, and other perceived political enemies if he returns to power. The presumptive Republican nominee has threatened to use the federal government to go after Biden during a second Trump administration 25 times since the start of 2023, and this was written at the start of 2024, and he's probably made way more threats since then. These threats include FBI raids, investigations, indictments, and even jail time for Joe Biden. Now, I don't think Trump is going to go after Biden. I think a lot of times he lives in the moment. With someone like Biden, he just says that stuff. But this dude has a genuine hatred for Liz Cheney. This dude has talked about Liz Cheney more than I think anybody else. Quote, he is promising to go after what he perceives to be his political enemies. He is promising to essentially weaponize the government against anyone he sees as not sufficiently loyal or who is openly opposed to him. And listen, any Republican we say this to would just be like, oh, weaponize the government just like Biden did against him. But you have to remember, you have to always say that this indictment was brought by a grand jury in all of the states, a grand jury. And then a jury of Donald Trump's peers that were handpicked by Trump's own lawyers said that he was guilty. This was not some banana republic prosecuting your political enemy. This is what due process looks like. And they're showing people that you're not above the law. Even former presidents are not above the law. But what Trump is doing is not some due process. Like, Trump is openly posting on Truth Social that he thinks these people should either be executed, that Mark Milley deserves death, that Liz Cheney should be in jail without any sort of investigation. Do you think Trump and Stephen Miller have done an investigation of this stuff? Obviously not. So let's get on to this article. I honestly didn't believe that Biden would do this, and my rationale is actually still pretty logical. using preemptive pardons, and Kinzinger was saying the same thing. Adam Kinzinger, former representative who was on the J6 committee, said the same thing. He said, I don't want to be preemptively pardoned because that implies that I did something wrong. Many people said this, but they must have had conversations behind the scenes, and they must have realized it's the best thing to do. It also prevents Republicans from, number one, ruining these people's lives. It's not even that Trump would throw all these people in jail immediately. Somebody very high up on Biden's team, who I won't name, said they weren't even scared of jail. They just don't have the funds to battle in court for 4 years. They don't have the funds to have their life sifted through and torn apart while they try to defend themselves. So there's ways that you can ruin people's lives without immediately just throwing them in jail, just so you guys know. It's not that they're going to go kick down Liz Cheneys' door and hold her at gunpoint. That's not what's going to happen, even though Trump did say something about Liz Cheney and a firing squad. It's that they would ruin her life and just dig up every corner to muddy the waters, but I digress. President Joe Biden issued preemptive pardons on Monday to retired General Mark A. Milley, Anthony S. Fauci, members and staff of the January 6th Congressional Committee, and even police officers who testified before the panel who were defending the Capitol that day. It's just insane that we've gotten to this point. And an extraordinary move just hours before President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration. In a lengthy statement, which I'll read in a second, Biden explained that he was issuing the pardons not because of any wrongdoing by those included, but to protect them after they had served our country. And this is why I think it's very important to read Biden's statement. This is why I'm going to make this video and why I implore you guys to watch until the end and to drop a like to help boost it, because Biden's words, if we're going to be honest here, haven't broken through many times over the past few years. Biden's given a lot of good speeches. He's had a lot of great things that could go down in the history books, but we know that voters aren't quite listening to Biden's message about inflation or whatever else. So we need to make sure that we are the messengers spreading this stuff about again, they're not being pardoned because of any wrongdoing, but to protect them after they had served their country based on Donald Trump's previous threats, saying Mark Milleys should be executed, saying Liz Cheney should be in jail. Did you guys even know that there is a leaked memo revealing an alarming German warning over Trump? They said Trump's second term will bring a maximum concentration of power with the president, Germany's ambassador to the U.S. warned in a confidential document. And maybe I should make an entirely new video about this, but Donald Trump's return to the White House has Germany's diplomatic corps bracing for what they see as a deliberate dismantling of United States democratic norms. Back to this article about Biden's preemptive pardons, Biden's decision comes after Trump has repeatedly threatened to go after those who have crossed him politically or attempted to hold him accountable for his role in the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. We also know that Trump said yesterday people will be very happy with his decision on the January 6th hostages, is what he calls them. They're actually just prisoners. And the Republicans think that these people have been sitting in jail with no trial, no due process over the past few years. None of that is even true. But let's go over to President Biden's statement. And let's read through it. He said, quote, "Our nation relies on dedicated, selfless public servants every day. They are the lifeblood of our democracy. Yet, alarmingly, public servants have been subjected to ongoing threats and intimidation for faithfully discharging their duties. In certain cases, some have even been threatened with criminal prosecutions, including General Mark A. Milley, Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, and the members and staff of the Select Committee to investigate J6. These public servants have served our nation with honor and distinction and do not deserve to be the targets of unjustified and politically motivated prosecutions. General Milley, for example, this is what I was just saying, served our nation for more than 40 years, serving in multiple command and leadership posts and deploying to some of the most dangerous parts of the world to protect and defend democracy. As chairman of the Joint Chief of Staffs, he guided our armed forces through complex global security threats and strengthened our existing alliances with forging ones. And let me remind you, this dude was the highest-ranking military official in the country, and he just had to be pardoned. When we're at the point where Trump has to pardon people like that, or just pardon civil servants, pardon the staff of the J6 committee, that's insane. For more than half a century, Dr. Fauci served our country. He saved countless lives by managing the government's response to pressing health crises, including HIV/AIDS, as well as Ebola, the Zika virus. During his tenure as my chief medical advisor, he helped the country tackle a once-in-a-century pandemic. The United States is safer and healthier because of him, but not according to Republicans. They think that the Fauci, ouchie, whatever the hell they call it, means he should be in jail, even though Trump is the one that spearheaded Operation Warp Speed and made sure there were vaccines ready. I mean, Trump took the vaccine. He touted it because he loves to tout his accomplishments. And that's the one thing. It's like, yeah, sure, if you want to tout your vaccine warp speed project, I don't care, go for it. And his supporters booed him when he started talking about the vaccine. On January 6th of 2021, American democracy was tested when a mob of insurrectionists attacked the Capitol in an attempt to overturn a fair and free election by force and violence. In light of the significance of that day, Congress then established the Bipartisan Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack. And it was bipartisan. There were Republicans and Democrats, and Trump has almost gone harder. He's gone after the Republicans on that committee harder because he views it as some sort of backstabbing that Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger wanted to investigate J6. The Select Committee fulfilled this mission with integrity and a commitment to discovering the truth. Rather than accept accountability, those who perpetrated the January 6th attack have taken every opportunity to undermine and intimidate those who participated in the Select Committee, and now these people will be pardoned. Now the January 6ers is what I'm talking about. The January 6th insurrectionists will be pardoned, which is insane. The Select Committee, in an attempt to rewrite history and erase the stain of January 6th. Then, this is the important part right here. This is the important part. Biden says, I believe in the rule of law, and I am optimistic that the strength of our legal institutions will ultimately prevail over politics. And I am too. American institutions are very resilient. I don't want anyone feeling too doomer, too scared, or too down. Of course, we're entering a new era, but American institutions are resilient. We survived a civil war. We've survived world wars. We've survived a lot of things. Then I'm going to restart this part. I believe in the rule of law, and I am optimistic that the strength of our legal institutions will ultimately prevail over politics. But these are exceptional circumstances, and I cannot in good conscience do nothing. Baseless and politically motivated investigations wreak havoc on the lives, safety, and financial security of targeted individuals and their families. Even when individuals have done nothing wrong, and in fact have done the right thing, and will ultimately be exonerated, the mere fact of being investigated or prosecuted can irreparably damage reputations and finances. Again, that is the important part right here, the reputations and the finances. I'm just going to reiterate this. It's not that Donald Trump is going to actually send the FBI to kick down Adam Kinzinger's door. It's that they'd ruin Adam Kinzinger's life by digging up every single corner and trying to figure out every single text he's sent over the past 5 years and use those texts to muddy the water. Meanwhile, Adam Kinzinger doesn't have the wealth to be pushing back on this legally. This is why I am exercising my authority under the Constitution to pardon General Mark Milleys, Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, the members of Congress and the staff who served on the January 6th Select Committee, and the U.S. Capitol and D.C. metropolitan officers who testified before the Select Committee. That is just dystopian. The Capitol officers need to be pardoned because they've spoken out publicly and said that this was basically caused by Trump. It's just insane. I mean, just think about this. They're heroes who literally stood between democracy and the mob trying to hang Mike Pence. They were beaten, they were tear gassed, and they continued to hold the line only to be put down for the next 4 years by people who claim to be patriots. And the patriots, quote unquote patriots, want to target the people who are protecting our democracy. So Biden's move definitely does ensure that these people are protected. And I was really conflicted about whether or not Biden should do this. If you guys saw my video a few weeks back, I said, Kinzinger's largely right. Kinzinger made a video and he said, I don't want to be pardoned. That implies that I did something wrong and then it muddies the waters. But it seems like extraordinary circumstances require extraordinary action, right? He then says, the issuance of these pardons should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that any individual engaged in any wrongdoing, nor should acceptance be misconstrued as an admission of guilt for any offense. Our nation owes these public servants a debt of gratitude for their tireless commitment to our country. And it's incredibly powerful. But I just want to say another unintended effect that most people won't even realize is that for the next 4 years, Republicans would have dominated the media cycle with slow trials that are only for show so that people would be like, oh, look at Liz Cheney in court over and over for months and months. The goal would not have been justice. The goal would not have been justice in any way. The goal would have been revenge, distraction, ruining people's reputations and finances, as President Biden says here. And by issuing these pardons, Biden has, as we know, preemptively shut down one of the GOP's most powerful tools for political theater. I mean, in a way, it forces them to try to actually fix the country, actually care about the country in any way. And let's just be clear here, like the double standards are insane. Republicans have openly celebrated the J6 rioters. Trump himself calls them hostages all of the time, and he said he's going to pardon all of them for their crimes. They actually committed crimes, yet the people who defended the Capitol, the people who actually upheld their oath, which Trump refused to do, were the ones who were facing retribution. It makes no sense. We are entering a new era, but I'm glad that you guys are here with me. I think that there's no other group of people I would rather be experiencing this with on a day-to-day basis. So we will continue to push back relentlessly. Have a great rest of your day. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next video in about an hour. Peace out.